If you ever walk past these Dollar Tree beaded wreath forms and thought they're only good for making wreaths, today's video might change your mind. I challenge myself to turn these beaded wreath forms into 3 completely different home decor projects, and none of them is a wreath. Hi, I'm Loli. Let's create something beautiful and find a little joy along the way. The next DIY was inspired by this Shira sculpture that I found from Just and Maine for $40. I will be using one of these beaded wreath forms from the Dollar Tree, and we'll be cutting it in half using some wire cutters. These were a godsend. They cut just like butter. Look at that. All right, so we're going to go ahead and remove the hook from this part. I just put my needle nose pliers in the opening of the hook, and then I opened my needle nose pliers to just open up the hook so I'm able to just remove it just like this. And for this project, we'll be using only half of this wreath form. I'm going to bend it, as you see here, in a U shape, and reposition any beads that fell out in the process. Then I'm going to just bend this edge right here so everything stays in place. And then I squeeze both sides tight together. Then I'm going to take one of these wooden bases that I got from a local thrift shop and a dowel rod, and I'm going to find a drill bit that is about the same girth or the same diameter as my skewer. Once I found that, I position it right into my drill. And we're going to drill a hole at the center of the base. But in order to find the center, I'm going to take my ruler, as you see there, and do a line diagonally from one corner to the other, as you see here. And I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side as well. And the point in which these two lines intercept will give me the exact middle of this wood round. So I'm going to just put a little point there, and then I'm going to take my drill and drill a hole on there, but I'm only going 3/4 of the way in. I don't want the hole to go all the way through to the other side. I removed that from my table. I did not want to do a hole on my table, so here I'm just making sure that I'm not going too far in and that my dowel rod is going to fit there, and it did. So I'm going to take my little zip sander and then just sand off any rough edges that I have all around the entire vase. And once everything was nice and smooth, I'm going to just go ahead and dust it off, and we are going to position our dowel rod in place. To adhere this, I'm going to use some wood glue that I have from Dollar Tree. I'm going to just add the wood glue to the inside of the hole and then squeeze the dowel rod right inside into the hole, and remove any of that excess wood glue from the surface. I took the leftover wood glue that I had on my finger and put it right in between the two beads, because we're going to be attaching that right on here, and those are the beads that are right at the center of our little archway that we created there. And then I'm going to nestle it in between the dowel rod. Here I was deciding if I wanted to do it from the top or the front, so I decided to do it here from the front. And I'm going to take some of this wire from the Dollar Tree, is from the the floral section, floral wire from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to cut a piece that is big enough that I'm able to wrap this and secure this in place until that glue dries. And when I actually ended up leaving it because I thought it really, gave it support in the long run. But you'll see here in a little bit what I mean. I began by just wrapping it in different angles, wrapping it around that wire that the wreath form has and the dowel rod. I just kept going in different directions, trying to crisscross it so it will be nice and stable. And I did that until that entire piece was completely wrapped around and the structure was secure. Then here at the end, I'm going to just twist the two little ends together, as you see there. And then I'm going to take my needle nose pliers and tighten it even further and just let it sit and wait for that glue to set. But then I decided, you know what, let's take some of this Titebond Quick and Thick. This one takes about 10 to 15 minutes to dry, and it will also adhere to the metal. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And I did it in any little area that I saw a little gap in which the bead and the dowel rod will be. And then I took my little wire cutters there, and I'm just going to trim off the excess dowel rod from the top here. And then I'm going to just hold it in place until that kind of stabilizes a little bit. It took about a minute or so. And this is what it looked like once it was dry. I am going to be painting the vase. To do that, I'll be using Mineral from Waverly. And I gave it about just one coat, actually one coat to the base and two to the dowel rod. Now we are going to go ahead and cover up our wire. I cut off any little pieces of wood that was still sticking out. I wanted this section to be nice and leveled. And then I took a couple of beads and cut them in half. And I'm taking some wood glue and I'm going to start with this first one here and position it at the front here to cover up this section where the wires are. And I just held it there until it kind of stayed on. And then I took another piece and I'm going to position it on the top section here. And then I took a third piece of bead and I'm going to position it in the back. For this one, I used some hot glue because I wanted it to have that instant hold. And then I had more of that wire in this side more than I did in the front of it. So this just helped me, sandwich it together. And if you see, this bead here was a lot deeper than the others. So I was able to nestle that in. And for the ends here, we wanted to hide the little wires at the top. So I just made the holes of the two beads a little bit wider in one of the sides. So I was able to just go ahead and fit it on top of that wire. And I did that twice. And we're going to position them right here in the very top of both sides of our wreath form. And that completes this project. Let me know in the comment section what you think about this one. I love it. My friends, today's video is part of the Wood Round or Wreath Wednesday, and this collaboration is on the fourth Wednesday of every month, and we do DIY home decor ideas using wood rounds and wreath forms, and it's hosted by Aurea from DIY with Aurea, myself Loli from Loli's Creations, and this month we have the privilege of having the Joyful Joy from Joyful Designs. The links to our channels and the playlist will link in the description box below, so make sure to head on over and show everyone some love. This one is so easy to make, yet so beautiful. I took a bamboo cutting board from the Dollar Tree and half of a wreath form, beaded wreath form from the Dollar Tree as well. I'm going to be making 2 archways out of this piece right here, but I had way too many beads and no room to do anything. So I undid the edges of it and removed some beads from it. Then I counted about 10 beads, and I'm going to create a small archway using that amount of beads. And then we are going to go ahead and cut off that section, but we want to make sure that we leave wire on the ends that are long enough for me to bend. So I made 2 of these, as you see there, with 10 beads each. Then I took my ruler and I'm going to measure the width here of my cutting board, and it was 17 centimeters. So I am trying to find the center in 2 different spots. And to be able to do that, what I did is I counted 5 spots from one of the edges of the cutting board inward. And I did that in both sides. So I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I just put a little dot right there at that section. And then I did the same thing on the other one. So it will be the same distance. So here's my first point. Then I did the same thing on the other side. I counted 1, 2, 3, 4. At this point, I thought I was going to need 4, but I ended up doing 5. This was my first try of it, and I didn't like how it was looking. So we're going to put them closer together. I wanted my beads to sit flush onto the surface of the cutting board. So this is why we are going to go closer so that when those beads will be flat onto there. So once I figured out that I was messy by putting hot pink on this project, I decided to come in with a pencil. So I would say try a pencil because you can always erase your little points. And I did the same thing on the other side. Then I took my drill with a drill bit that was the same diameter as the wire that the wreath form has, and I bore holes on those little points that I measured with my ruler. And I drilled all 4 holes. Now we're going to take our little pieces of wreath form, and I'm going to just go ahead and fit those wires into those holes. I made sure to wiggle the drill just a little bit so it will be not as hard for me to put it through, but at the same time it will be snug. Here you can see exactly what I mean. I'm going to just wiggle it just a little bit because it was getting very hard for me to put those wires through. And I did that with all 4 of the holes. So I would say once you drill this, just do this from the get-go. to ensure that you don't have to come back and re-drill them like I just did. All right, and we're removing any little pieces of sawdust or any little splinters from it. And now we're just going to go ahead and just put that right in there. Just kept pushing down on the edges until the wire went right through towards the back of that cutting board. And once both of them were in place, we are going to go ahead and bend them. I decided to bend them inward because I figured there will be less of a chance of injury if somebody tries to do something on the bottom of this and they don't get poked with it. You can always put some tape on it also. But I was just worried about those beads sitting nicely and on my archway being nice and round. Then I'm just going to take my needle nose pliers to go ahead and bend bend that wire as close to the cutting board as possible so that way those handles will stay nice and tight. And I repeated the same thing on the other side as well. And this is what it looked like in the back. Now we're going to take some of these pumpkins that I got from Hobby Lobby during the clearance season, and I'm going to remove the sticks. With the Dollar Tree pumpkins, it's so easy to do this. I thought I could do it, but I couldn't. They were just really good in there. So I'm going to take my little snips here and then just snip them as flat as possible to the edge on there. And if I have any pieces that are sticking out, I'm going to just break away all those pieces and then come in with my zip sander and sand it to make sure that that portion is completely flat. And I repeated this same process with the rest of them. Now we're going to take some wood glue, and I'm going to add wood glue to the section that I sanded off and cut off the stems out of on all 4 of my little pumpkins. My friend, if you're enjoying this video so far, please don't forget to hit that like button and let me know in the comment section where you're watching from. I love to know how far my videos are reaching, and share because sharing is caring and it helps my channel grow. Thank you so much. All right, next I took my cutting board and I put it on top of a jar so it will be elevated. And now we are going to position each one of these pumpkins right here on the corners of the cutting board, serving as our little feet to our riser. And I loved how the color of these little feet and the color of the little handles that we did for this project work together. And I set it aside to dry overnight, and that is it for this one. Please let me know what you think. I love it. This one came out better than I expected. I'm going to start with this wood round from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to remove the hanger and put it to the side because I'll be using it later on in the project. Then I painted it with some Rust-Oleum and white chalk paint. Now I'm going to take some of this tissue paper that I got from the Dollar Tree, and I'll be using this printed one right here at the top. Next, I added some parchment paper underneath of the tissue paper and some on top of the tissue paper. Then I took my heat press and removed all of the folds that it came with in the packaging. Dollar Tree had these decor pieces recently in the store, and I fell in love with it. Picked it up, wasn't sure what I was going to do with it, but then I decided we're going to use it for this project. We're going to remove the packaging from it, and I'm also going to remove that hanger that it comes with. And let me tell you, that wasn't easy. I tried with a staple remover, didn't work. I tried with a screwdriver, didn't work. I finally was able to pull it very hard and remove one of the sides, and this other side kind of came out with the staple remover. So now we are going to go ahead and toss this to the side. And this is going to go right here at the center of our piece here. But I didn't like how the background of the flowers kind of made this welcome part not show up. And I had like a castaway in the top also that was different from the welcome. Like the welcome word, it was stamped in the front and the back, but it wasn't even. So I scraped off the one that was in the front and I left the one that was in the back, and I made it clearer. Then I'm cutting off the excess tissue paper that I have on here. And as I said, I didn't like how, everything was just disappearing on the background. So I decided to mark off that circle. Then I took the tissue paper and I'm going to just match the circle edges to each other, making sure that it's nice and straight. I'm going to crease the paper again because I kind of had to do it for this. But it's okay. I'm going to uncrease it later on again. And I'm going to cut about a 1/2 inch inside of where I marked that because I want to be able to see white in the back of that circular decor piece from the Dollar Tree that has the glass. And this was the best way for me to achieve that look. And I was left with this right here in the middle. We're going to center it right there. But first, we're going to add some Mod Podge to the entire wood round. And I made sure to not leave any empty areas. And I also made sure to concentrate on the edges because we want to make sure that our tissue paper glues down in every little nook and cranny of the entire wood round. Then I set it aside to dry. And now that it's dry, we are going to center this tissue paper right here. And once I have it positioned exactly where I want it, I'm going to put some parchment paper over it. And I'm going to come in with my press once more and just press down the areas where the tissue paper is. And what this does, it activates the Mod Podge on those areas and it adheres the tissue paper to the surface. I will just say be careful that you don't do it on the rest of the wood round because there you can see how it got attached. So try to keep your heat right where the tissue paper is only. And also be sure that you are doing all of your edges to make sure that you have no lifting. Next, I took my sip sander and I'm going to sand off the tissue paper from all the edges. I'm just going to do it in a downward motion as you see there, like kind of downward sideways. And I kept going around this way until the tissue paper was completely removed. And this I feel is the best and closest way to have a nice finish and a very clean edge. Now we are going to attach this piece to the center right here, but first I removed these tabs. I didn't like how you can see that black on the other side. I just thought it took away from the entire thing. So we're gonna just take some needle nose pliers and pull them right out. Then I took the hanger that I removed from the wood round earlier and we are going to thread some of these pink beads. I got this in packages during the Easter time in the Dollar Tree and I will be using the pink ones and I threaded about 14 of them onto here. And I burned off the fuzzies from the pieces that were closest to the beads. You know already, I don't like the fuzzies. Now we're going to poke some holes where the holes of the wood round are through the tissue paper. We're going to thread that cord through there, tie it very nicely on the top of the edge there of the wood round. I did a double knot and then I fed that tail of the jute cord through the beads and I just kept bringing the beads down. And I really like how this gives it a nice seamless look. And I repeated the same thing with the other side. And then I glued the piece in the center. Sorry, my camera died at that time. Then I'm going to take one of these wood bead wreath forms from the Dollar Tree and I'm going to open it up. I'm just going to put my needle nose pliers through the hole of one of the loops and I'm pry it open a little bit just so I'm able to just unhook the two pieces. Then I'm going to stretch out one of the edges right here so I can remove some beads. I removed a total of about 7 beads from this piece, so I'm able to readjust it and turn it into a smaller wreath form. And then I just threaded the wire through the loop that we had left over. Make sure that all of the beads were close together. And here, in order for everything to be nice and tight, I made sure to bend it very close to the bead right there. So when I loop it in, as you see there, it just looks like the original wreath form, just smaller. And I cut off the excess wire. My friend, if you're enjoying this video so far, please don't forget to hit that like button and hit the subscribe button and join the Lolly D's Creations family. It is all free and it means the world to me. Thank you so much. All right, as you see right there, the wreath form fits perfectly. And to adhere it to this position right here, we will be using some Tide Bond Quick and Tick. I added it all around the perimeter of the wood round right here. Then I'm going to position the wood bead right on there, making sure that that wire portion is right there centered with the hanger. Then to give it some more visual interest and some flair, and to cover that wire piece right there on the top, I took some ribbon that I have left over from Walmart, I believe, and I'm going to create a bow. I wrapped the ribbon, as you see there, twice around my fingers. Then I looped the tail, the longest tail, through 2 of my fingers right there, and then I put that tail through that loop I created, making sure that the ribbon is on the shiny side or the prettier side. And then I tighten it as you see right there. And I'm also making sure that my tails are looking in the same direction. And this gives me a beautiful 2-loop bow. I'm just going to go ahead and stretch them out right here to expose the 2 loops. And we are going to position it right here, but first we're going to trim off the excess ribbon. And to make the middle a little bit prettier, I just added that ribbon to the middle. I'm going to start by adding a little bit of hot glue in the back of the bow. Then I'm going to wrap that piece of ribbon all the way around to cover the front here. Then I'm adding a little bit of hot glue in the back also. First, I'm twisting my bow to make sure that everything looks good in the front. And then I'm going to tack down the ribbon right here in the back with a little bit more hot glue. And then we're going to go ahead and just trim off the excess ribbon from there. Then we are going to cut our, slant our tails as you see there. And then I just cinched it or just kind of burned off the edges of the tail there to avoid any fraying or any kind of unraveling. And I repeated the same thing with the other side. Now we are going to attach the bow to where that piece of wire is. And that is it for this one. Let me know what you think about this one. I absolutely love it. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed today's episode, here are a couple more videos you are sure to enjoy. Thank you so much for stopping by. You're amazing. Bye.